We recently moved into a condo, and we realized that all of a sudden space is at a premium. We don't have as much space as we had before. And actually, it's been a great thing because we've sort of purged a bunch of stuff we never used. But we've also found ways we can entertain that we're not used to entertaining in a smaller space, and it's been fantastic. It's really sort of given us, the opportunity to sort of relook at how we entertain and come up with some new ideas. And entertaining in a small space can be done really well and really easily. And because you have limited space, it takes a little bit more effort maybe to think about it. But once you come up with the ideas, it actually is more economical and a little bit more innovative than traditional entertaining.
We love using tiered trays, but in a small space, counter space is at a premium. So typically when you would put platters out all along the counters, we don't have that opportunity anymore. So that's where we go to our tiered trays. If you do not have your own tiered trays, simply make one. What we've done is we've gathered 2 plates, a cup or a vessel of any kind, and we put a smaller plate on top. And bingo, when you don't have the counter space to move outwards with all your food and your platters, let's move upwards.
The nice thing is that honestly, this is a really, really easy way to display your food with taking up less footprint.
Yeah. Because counter space is at a premium, instead of setting up a full bar for your guests to help themselves or for you to serve them, instead, why don't you consider doing 1 or 2 batched cocktails? These are things that can be made ahead of time, either in a massive punch bowl or in a pitcher. And this way, your counter space, you've only taken up a little bit of it, and your guests can still help themselves, and the drinks are already pre-mixed, so you're not finding yourself behind the bar all evening. You know what? The party always ends up in the kitchen, and it's really hard to direct people out of the kitchen. And for me, I don't love people being in the kitchen all the time because I'm a bit of a neat freak and I love to tidy up as we go along. So what we like to do, first of all, we use florals, and we use florals as a roadmap along with candles, little signature decor pieces. And we like to spread these out throughout our small space or throughout our condo. And that way it acts as a roadmap for our guests. And at each one of these little stations, they will find drinks or hors d'oeuvres or napkins. And we don't like to put the same thing at each one. We like to separate. So the bar is at one side, some food is at the other, desserts are at the other. So it really makes your guests walk around the space.
Yeah, the idea when you have a small space, you kind of have to think to yourself, to Sheila's point, people are going to naturally congregate around certain areas, the kitchen, the bar, etc. So what you need to do is you need to give them a reason to go to an area that might not be maybe as naturally attractive to them. So for example, if we have a small den in our apartment, so what I would do is if we are entertaining a larger group or something, I'd make sure that we put the charcuterie board in there. And you're not saying to them, hey, do you mind taking your drink and going into the den? No, you're giving them a reason to go there.
I mean, I love scented candles and often have them burning, but not necessarily around food, especially flavorful food. I would save your scented candles for your entryway. So when your guests walk in, they get a gorgeous smell, or save scented candles for your powder room.
Yeah, or even afterwards, if you're, it's Sheila's point 100%, you don't really want to overwhelm people with the smell of, really floral candles, especially if you already have real fresh flowers and stuff around and the food is there. But if there's nothing wrong with doing it later on, or, we love the fact that, the apartment always smells fresh with whatever candle we're burning and stuff. But when you're serving food, like let the food really take center stage, and then maybe bring the candles out later when, everyone's just hanging around and having cocktails after dinner, and then maybe, the roast chicken smell that you had during dinner is all of a sudden not as appropriate. So that's when you bring out the scented candles.
Absolutely. I would say afterwards is best also, because then it basically, it refreshes the room and gets rid of any food odor that you might have.
Plus it sets this super romantic mood.
I'll start off with saying, just don't bite off more than you can chew.
There's really 2 fundamentals of entertaining to us. Number 1, plan things out appropriately. If you're having 15 people to your place, probably not, and it's a tight space, and maybe you don't have a lot of time for prep, probably not the best time to experiment with like really complex cocktails or new food dishes. Try and stick to things that are a little bit simpler and easier to execute. On the other hand, if it's 3 friends that are coming over and it's totally casual, go for it. Sky's the limit. Try something completely new. If it doesn't work, there's only 4 of you, and I'm sure there's enough other food you can do, or worst case scenario, you order pizza. But it's about planning, and to Sheila's point, making sure that you don't set yourself up. You set yourself up for success, and that way it'll make it a lot easier. constantly the questions we get are always around, well, what do I do? So, because I feel like I'm always scrambling last minute. So in the book, for every chapter, we created this party countdown calendar. And the idea is that for each one of the concepts in the chapters, we basically said, here's what you can do, a week out, 3 days out, 2 days out, the day of. And sometimes those are small things that are super common sense and apply to any party. In a condo, for example, what we have a habit of doing is we always empty all the garbages an hour before our guests arrive. And we always, based on the number of guests that are coming, we have that many coat hangers ready to go in the front closet with space for the coats. Because if not, what happens, people come in and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, where am I going to put these coats? And you end up being, oh, just throw them on the bed in the bedroom. Well, no, take your own coats, put them in your closet in your bedroom, put them on the bed, and keep all of your closet at the front for your guests. It's more convenient, it's more appropriate, it's more suitable, it's easier. Little things like that you can do ahead of time so you're not scrambling when guests arrive to do something like that. Sheila also has a habit. She literally runs the dishwasher an hour before our guests arrive. So it's empty. It's
completely empty and ready to be refilled.
Yeah, because think about it. Like if you're halfway through your party, your garbages are half full already. Maybe your dishwasher is half full. Well, you're going to run into an issue. And you're going to have to deal with that halfway through your party. You might as well deal with it ahead of time, in which case you won't have to worry about it. And that'll make it more enjoyable and less stressful.
Is that, when you're short on time, you don't always have to make everything from scratch. You don't have to be a superhero. There's nothing wrong with, buying pre-made icing if you're icing a cake. There's nothing wrong with buying pre-made hollandaise sauce or peppercorn sauce. For that matter, you can even order in or serve prepared foods. Your guests are coming to spend time with you in your space. And if this is the way that you will be more relaxed, we are all for it. A relaxed host will equal a relaxed guest. And then you have time to enjoy them.
One of the things Sheila does, and she's the first person I've seen do this, and I just loved it, is we will often do a sushi night at home. And we don't make our own sushi. We have chefs who sometimes make it for us, or we have a sushi shop in our neighborhood that we absolutely love. Well, Sheila, instead of getting, you get it on the black trays and you move everything around, well, what she does is the day before, or a few days before, or the morning of, she drops off a few platters at the sushi shop, and she says, do you mind putting the sushi right on the platters? So literally we get it, we put it in the fridge at home, and when we serve it, it's all on our own china. And this is such a small little thing, but it's all of a sudden made it so much more special than basically coming to somebody's house and realizing like, oh, okay, this clearly, has a black plastic base to it. There's also obviously the environmental side of it, that we don't want to use all that plastic that goes in the garbage. It's a nice way to avoid that.
It just shows that you've gone that little extra steps to make your guest experience special.
But one thing about entertaining is that, in our parents' generation, in traditional entertaining, there's all these rules. This is how you set the table. This is, you eat from the cutlery from the outside in, everything has to match, etc. Well, that's not the case anymore. It's about having fun. It's about enjoying yourself. It's not about the forcing yourself to prescribe to a certain type of entertaining. So if you happen to seat, 8 people, but you only have a setting for 6, absolutely borrow a setting of 3 from your neighbor and alternate. How fun is that? Every second place setting is completely different. Why not? If Soho House can get away with like dining rooms that are completely mishmatched with not one piece of furniture that matches, you can do it in your entertaining as well.
There's a couple of options. You can simply use a tablecloth, and then each seat is defined simply by the cutlery or the plates, which is a fantastic option. And nowadays, you don't even have to buy a formal tablecloth. Any piece of fabric, a blanket, for example, if you're entertaining outdoors, anything can really be used. Or we would recommend using a charger plate.
Yeah, charger plates are great. The other thing you can do is you can just do a place setting card. If you are actually setting people, then you have their name. It doesn't even, it's like you can literally do that in a glass and cutlery and people know that's where I sit. So there's ways you can do it that, as we said before, do not have to follow the traditional method, because a lot of times you're not entertaining in a traditional setting. So why not just mix it up? If you hear a little barking, it's because our little puppy really wants to be in.
Lulu.
This is Lulu, and Lulu really wanted to know what was going on and be involved. If you don't love dogs, you're not welcome in our home.
That's not true. You don't have to love dogs. But yes, we do let the puppies run around. That being said, though, if we are having quite a few people or a party, trust me, they are well exercised, both of our dogs, before any of the guests arrive. So after they say hello to everybody, they are out cold in their beds asleep.
Thanks for joining us as we shared our tips and tricks around Valentine's Day entertaining. Again, I'm Sebastian.
And I'm Sheila, and we'd like to thank you for this opportunity, Concord Experience, and be sure to pick up a copy of EATertainment for all of your entertaining ideas.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's.